Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Diana Hoyt on the line, and she's Chief Strategist and Trainer at Formula for Fundraising. Diana, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
All right, so I'm excited. This is a very special episode. So I've known Diana since I got started really in finance, so many years ago, and we originally met. I believe it was at Toastmasters. Am I off on that one, Diana? I think
Correct.
so, right?
Absolutely. Market Masters, Toastmasters.
Oh my gosh, Market Masters, Toastmasters. Well, before I go off on a tangent on that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, and then I'm going to circle back to Toastmasters, of course.
Okay.
But we'll start with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Diana, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Diana, what mission matters to you?
The mission that matters to me is helping nonprofits increase their capacity for fundraising.
Yeah, it's a big task. It's a big, and doing all the interviews that I've done and having the privilege of interviewing many nonprofits, I mean, it can be challenging. And I know at the work that you're doing at Formula for Fundraising is helpful. And we're going to go into exactly how you're helping nonprofits. But before we do that, let's go a little bit further back into your career. Like, how did you get interested in this space? Like, what drew you to it?
It was, I kind of fell into it. It was accidental, which happens to a lot of people. I mean, nobody becomes, well, today they do. There's actually degrees in nonprofit work. But I was asked to attend a meeting. I'd get trained. I'd make a few phone calls and raise money. I said, okay, I can do that. And it was just a very few short years later, I became the chief fundraiser for that organization and raised $1 million that year. And what I learned is that it's not just about asking the money for the money. It's about building the relationship and helping people support something they really believe in.
Yeah.
And it's really a higher calling to bring people to something that's important. And I love it.
So I want to stick, a little bit earlier in the career for a moment longer. So you're at this point, you're working for another company, I believe, and you're obviously doing wonderful. Like I know people watch this, like, okay, how do we get Diana to work for us? Well, she consults now other things. Like we'll talk about that, but. Like, what did that, at some point, you decided to start a business? At some point, you decided to kind of cross over to be an entrepreneur and to start, and to launch a company. Like how did that decision take place?
I worked for 5 nonprofit organizations in the greater Phoenix area. Yeah. What I learned is that I enjoyed building the fundraising program. Yeah. And once it was built and everything was up and running, I got bored. And I didn't know that about me. That was not something I understood about me until I had done it a few times. Yeah. And one of the things that I really saw that was important was their management of information, fundraising information. And so I, who had never started a business, who had never been in the software industry, started a software company. And actually designed fundraising software.
And this was, wait, for context, though, I want to stick at that point for a moment. This isn't like the other day when you are like last year or a couple of years ago when now you can outsource, you can do other things. Like your company's been in existence for a while. Like that must have been challenging to not have at that time period experience in that field and then decided, like, I can't even imagine how you were managing that.
Well, let's put it this way. My kids, who were at that time were in high school, college ages, said, "Mom, you don't even know how to turn on a computer." So that gives you some idea of the baseline that we were working with.
Yeah.
And, I knew what the software needed to do. I could hire somebody to help develop it. I just had to write the schematics, the flow of what that software needed to do. And I could do that. My background, I was a high school mathematics teacher. I actually took a Fortran program in college. So it's not like I didn't know anything.
Yeah. You might not have been able to turn on the computer, but you knew how to write a program.
Right. And, I can turn on a computer now, so it's okay.
So there's a lot of people right now, Diana, that are maybe in this realm of maybe accidental entrepreneur, or they're, displaced. Lots going on in the world right now. For context, we're recording this in 2022 for everyone. So, some people have lost their jobs. Some people are transitioning to other things. And some are considering that entrepreneurial route. Like maybe they have some of the thought process that you did, or maybe they're thinking like it's time for them to maybe take a little bit of charge in what they want to do. What would you tell to that new group of entrepreneurs that are maybe considering leaving the corporate space and going out on their own?
It's one of those things. I'm not going to tell you it was easy. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. I made it through the recession. I mean, at that point, I think I had ran up every credit card to the max. I was making payroll off a credit card.
Wow.
Okay? So unless you have a really strong backbone and are secure in who you are personally, don't do it. Yeah. I mean, you just have to just slog through the good times and the bad times. And, and I was blessed working with some wonderful people and working with nonprofits that talk about mission matters.
Yeah.
Their mission mattered so much that sometimes their stories would bring me to tears. And, if I could help them, wow. I mean, I couldn't do anything more. So, yeah, you really, I would tell anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, you better have a backbone of steel and be semi-crazy.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe you said that. Well, I can believe it, and I'll tell you why. I'm keeping a mental kind of rolling toll in my head. So, I mean, I've done thousands of interviews, thousands of entrepreneurs, literally going on 5,000, maybe over now, and probably 80% of them that have been doing it for a while say, "Don't do it, or you have to be crazy." Or pain. Pain is also another word that's used frequently. One of my favorite. You think this is an entrepreneur show? If somebody's watching this for a while or listening to this for a while, they're like, how come on this entrepreneur show they keep on telling us don't do it? Like all these other shows say, I love it. I love that it's a true answer, and just the guts it takes to make payroll when you need it to on credit card. Hat goes off. And I like to paint the picture of like kind of the early days in these interviews, because skipping to the good part and where you're at now and how you're helping companies now, that part's easy. But without that story in the beginning of what it took to get there, it's like, and every entrepreneur that's watching this, that's maybe on their first, second, third, fifth, 20th, I'm probably 20 businesses in before this one actually stuck. And if you told me, was I going to be a podcaster when I grew up? What are you talking about? When I graduated college, I don't even know if podcasts were out, right? They were called radio shows, and it's not what I do.
Right.
So I do want to paint a little bit of the picture now of just the general like dilemma, specifically in information, which is what you specialize in. That obviously, in the initial, stages of your career, you saw that, the 5 companies you work with, they'd had some issues, right? And with data management. But now in hindsight, many years in your career and working with many, many organizations, like tell us what that fundamental problem or problems are with the data side of things.
Well, I think that, like businesses, there's so much data out there, and nonprofits have a lot of data. Some more or less. Some I don't think do a very good job of it. But it's data by itself means absolutely nothing if you don't look at it. And if you don't, there are certain things that you need to know, and using that on an annual basis, create your strategies for fundraising. And a lot of times, the strategies have absolutely nothing to do with the data.
Wow.
And consequently, it makes it very difficult.
Can you give an example of that? Just a small one, just to kind of clarify, because I'm trying to imagine it.
Okay. Well, one of the big numbers is donor retention. And my company was involved back in 2006 when the Association of Fundraising Professionals and the Urban Institute, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C., came together to do a research project. And they invited software companies to participate. I was like the baby software company. Everybody else was a bigger guy, and literally guy. I was the only female. And what we did is we created this means in our software that we could grab data with a nonprofit's permission, and it would go to the Urban Institute, and they would run these reports. And at that time, donor retention in the United States was running about 60%, which, by the way, if you were running a business and you only had 60% donor retention or customer retention, you wouldn't be doing very well. Right? Okay. Well,
that'd be something to be focusing on heavily, right? Because every metric says that, keeping a current client versus acquiring a new one, anything I've ever read says it's way more expensive. So if you can solve that retention problem, you're probably doing pretty well. Go ahead.
Now, that donor retention number, now keep in mind, this was like 2005, 6. It was 60% donor retention. It is now 45%. And nonprofits will say, well, our donor, we run our numbers and everything's fine. And I'm going, really? So if everybody I talk to is fine, why does the number keep dropping? That's almost 1% a year. We're not retaining donors. That's just the beginning point of what they need to look at.
So I'll tell you one of the things that I regret on my entrepreneurial journey is I didn't really respect or understand data in the beginning. So even as a media company, and I guess this is my rant, and maybe I bring up this story just so I remember this, like just get it in my head. But we didn't have, even in the beginning, we were years into this business. And in terms of data, we didn't have like newsletter. We weren't kind of checking our demographics. We weren't doing a lot of things. We were just putting out content and praying and just focusing on trying to get better. Right? Like better interviews, better reach, things like that, numbers, but our respect and what we thought about for data, I should say me, the other co-founder here, Chirag, he respected it, but let's just say maybe I won the argument, unfortunately, on that one, by the way, on what to prioritize. And now when I look back, I'm like, man, if we would have been looking at the data, thankfully we're doing pretty well, but like we would have been a whole nother league potentially. And it's just, to me, more so like not looking at the data, it's just a waste of resources. Like if it's there, if you have the ability to get it, if you have like tools or resources like yourself and individuals that help in different areas, like why wouldn't you do it, right?
Yeah. It's always said, and I think one of the things that I hear often is we don't have the time.
Yeah, I've said that one. That's what I would tell Chirag.
Well, the reality is,
I've said it and I was wrong. Go ahead.
But if you want to keep customers, if you want to keep donors, you must make the time. It's not like it's a choice that because otherwise, especially in the nonprofit sector, you're churning donors. They're coming in and they're coming out. Well, if you don't look at that number and you're not developing strategies, you're just going to keep churning donors. And like you said, wow, is that expensive? And nonprofits don't have that money. So the not taking the time is actually costing them a lot. And therefore, they're not able to provide as many services and programs as they're supposed to.
And one of the things in my opinion, and this is just, any business, nonprofit or otherwise, is if you're not focusing on that, then when something happens out of your control and you're forced to focus on it, that churn rate or whatever, how as many clients as you were bringing on versus how many you were losing may not be your normal marketing, or what you did may not work when something outside your control, like a pandemic happens, right? Like that's what got our attention as a company, or I should say my attention. And that's what won the war on data, was when we couldn't do our, in-person book launch events, or we couldn't do some of the things that we used to do. We see the number, the revenue growing, right? So we think, okay, everything's okay. But because we didn't have that, retention, let's just say number, Then when a pandemic happens or something, whatever, out of your control, 2008, housing crisis, recession, tech bubble, right? When all these things happen, then you could find yourself in some real trouble, especially if you could have retained more of that and you could have gone deeper with your current client base or donor base in this, for the context of this conversation, and with your donor base, and maybe made them more sticky, so that if they were deciding between, things are tight and one organization versus another, they may be thinking, both are amazing. If you're thinking about that natural feel of retention and what type of value you added to your donors, to me, it would be logical that whatever that percentage is, it would be higher.
Yeah. Well, in organizations that have high donor retention numbers are the organizations that do an incredible job of touching base with their donors. And again, it gets back to we don't have time. And it's like, what do you mean you don't have time to talk to your donors? Yeah. They're the ones who are paying your salary. So it kind of makes me a little crazy.
I get it. But I've been on the other side, and I made myself crazy looking in retrospect. Yeah. I want to pause for a moment, and I know it's pretty obvious what you're doing in helping nonprofits, but I just want to go further and just tell us exactly what you do at Formula for Fundraising, please.
Oh, okay. I have really narrowed my focus. I mean, I can do lots of fundraising things because I've been in the industry for almost 40 years. Hello, it's been a long time. But I'm really focusing on helping organizations understand their numbers. So helping them develop data-driven, donor-centered strategies. So if I can help an organization, I can come in, let's run the numbers, let's create the strategies based upon your history. That's my number one thing. I also like to help organizations either review or write their case for support. And their case is their why. Why should anybody give them a nickel and support their cause? Okay. So that document is extremely important. And I also like to just work with just general annual fundraising. I do that a lot because a lot of folks don't really understand what their annual fund is or what that means. And so it's kind of fun to teach it as well as help people. And the last thing I do, mainly because I did it for 22 years, is I help organizations find a CRM, a donor management system that will fit their needs. Not somebody else's needs, but their needs specifically. So I work with them to help really define what that means, what they're looking to do, and to also help them look out 5-10 years, because you don't want to be switching software every few years. So what products, and there's a lot of products out there, but what really meets their needs?
Oh, when you said CRM, the first thing I thought about is how wonderful as a company we felt when we moved from our Excel spreadsheets or Google Sheets, whatever we were using, to CRM. Like it was like I don't know, the light was like, we all of a sudden we have access to all this data, and now we can actually do something and make use of it, and we can reach out to individuals, and we're not thumbing through countless spreadsheets. And then exactly what you said, I wish we had worked with somebody on picking the right CRM, because we went through probably 3 before we landed on one within maybe 3 years. So exactly what you said. So for those that claim they don't have time, you have time, and it costs more, and it takes way more time to get it wrong multiple times than just doing it right the first time.
It's also extremely expensive.
Oh yeah. That's what I said. It costs more and it takes the time.
You would like the fact I have a sign up on the wall of my desk that says, "Friends don't let friends fundraise with Excel."
Oh, that's good. I should ask, what type of nonprofits do you work with, by the way? Is this only for like large nonprofits, like middle market, smaller? Like what's kind of the mix there on individuals that maybe get the most value out of working with you and your team?
Okay. My sweet spot is small to medium sized. because I feel like if I can help push them into that next level of fundraising, um, and they often don't have the staff, they don't have the background, they can't afford somebody with my knowledge to have on staff. So I can come in as a consultant and help them, get them trained so they can move forward, and then I'm out the door. The large organizations usually have multiple staff people and don't need a consultant quite as much.
What are the your strategies? Are they applicable for both the small and middle? Because I feel like a lot of times, and if a company is smaller, they think, or a nonprofit in this case is smaller, they think, we've been thinking about a CRM, or not even just to pick on the CRM. It could be anything. Like, we've been thinking about that, but we're just not there yet. We're not there yet. And that whole phrase, "we're not there yet," I feel like it costs so many people time and resources. So are your strategies applicable for everyone?
Yes. Yeah. It's some things are very simple, but there's a series of data analytics I like to go through so they can really see, okay, this is what we've done. Yeah. This is where we are right now. If we want to get from here to there, what are we going to have to do? Well, that doesn't change for any organization. It's like, what do you have and where do you want to be? And what do you have to do to get there? So, I don't see, even if you were a major university, you still have to look at it the same way. I just don't want to work with a major university. I'd rather work with a small, social service agency that I can make a difference.
Yeah. So you mentioned, donor retention. Can you give us maybe another, whether it's a data point or something else, just to kind of build out like what that looks like and what people may be missing?
One of the things that, a couple things. One is that statistically, if you made a gift last year to a nonprofit, there's about a 25% chance 25% that you will make a second gift to that organization.
Wow.
Right. Not good. And there are reasons for it. I'll give a personal example. A few weeks ago, I made a donation. It wasn't a small donation, but it wasn't huge, to a nonprofit 3-4 weeks ago. I have yet to receive a thank you.
Wow.
Okay. Will I give to that nonprofit again? No. And that's what happens. There is a lack of gratitude. It could have been a postcard. They could have done anything, but they did nothing. And donors are frustrated. At least I gave you money. At least thank me. It doesn't have to be fancy thank you, but write it on a postcard. But do something. And so that's not happening. And there's lots of stories of wonderful thank yous that grew into $1 million gifts because somebody took the time to say thank you.
And for those nonprofits, and this happens whether it's nonprofits or otherwise, business owners, there's a lot in, or I should say, businesses that are not nonprofits. There's a lot to take away from this. Like, there's some lessons there. Like, are we thanking our clients? Are we thanking our customers? Right? I know when I started in my career, I would, I was an avid thank you note writer. Now we send emails and things like that. And there's resources, there's ways to do this. But if the barrier of entry to possibly increase, in this case, that percentage for a second donation from 25% to 25.5, I don't know, 26, whatever the number is, like, to thank somebody, you think you'd want to take it, right?
Right. Well, and especially, that's why we see the lack of donor retention. If you can't even keep your first time donor, and that's huge. That is just, it's an enormous number. That if nonprofits did nothing else, one of the things we always recommend is, if you receive a check in the mail as a nonprofit, pick up the phone and call them. Okay. If you receive a check or a donation online, immediately send out an email thanking them. But, and here's the big but, this is just drives me crazy. All those emails that come off, online donations, those are automated. Hello. There was nothing personal.
Yeah.
Nothing. Zero.
Yeah.
So take the time, because when they filled out that form online, they gave you an address. Take the time now to write a separate thank you. I realize the cost of postage is crazy, but the reality is so few donors receive letters thanking them that are signed by a human being.
Yeah.
With a little PS, wow, we really appreciated your gift. I think nonprofits would be amazed at the impact.
That is such a great tip. And you are giving so many lessons here. Like, I don't even know if you understand how you're just dripping in knowledge on this. So the obvious to me is if somebody sent in a paper check, they would probably prefer a phone call over an email because they're still using checks, right? If somebody is, or they like checks, so maybe they want that more personal feel. If they're sending it online, then they're probably checking their email all the time as well. But it's still, like, you get a postcard or something else, like that's nuanced, but there's a lot to what you just said. Like, that's experience right there.
There is a charity that my husband and I give to. I hate to call it a charity. It's a philanthropic organization that we've been giving to now for years. At one point, I made a really small gift. I think it was $25. It was, not a big gift. And I received a lovely thank you letter, hand signed. Then I received a postcard from one of their board members thanking me for my gift. And then I received a handwritten postcard from the president of the organization.
Wow.
Thanking me for my gift. When I got that third one, I said, well, that just sealed the deal. We are now lifetime donors.
Oh, that's a process. I swear that's a process. And I think you just changed some of the processes here at Mission Matters. I guarantee it, Diana, like you did. I learn, and one of my favorite parts about hosting this show is that I get to learn from entrepreneurs from all walks of life. And everybody, there's always a tip or something else I feel that individuals that they listen to these episodes, like they get, that can help them improve in maybe their personal life or professional life as an entrepreneur or as an executive or otherwise. So, man, the knowledge today. I want to, we're going to jump around a little bit here, Diana. I want to talk about the two books that you have out. I understand you have a recent release. Do you have one there that you can hold up? Maybe, can you hold them up?
Of course. This is
all
the
right.
recent.
Oh, so exciting. I'd hold them up. I have them right in front of me, but the green screen will be off. But
yeah,
but
this is my first one, which is how I ended up naming the company. Because people say, well, what's the formula? Well, the formula, by the way, you can see it on the back wall behind me. It's know your numbers, know your donors. So getting back to that data-driven information. This one, I lovingly call my bullet point book. There's a reality that people are busy and they don't always take the time to read. I mean, I know that I scan things. Yeah. And often print them off so I can read them later, right? When I've got quiet time and I can just sit there and read. And so I did. The chapters are very short. They're to the point. Because I wanted people in the fundraising field, whether they were staff or volunteers, to be able to read something and have an answer and be able to go do it. So it's the bullet points of what you really need to do, which is why the 24 rules for raising even more money.
If you If you had to kind of sum up some of the inspiration and the reason why you went the book route, what would you say? And I'll tell you where this question's coming from. So I'm biased. We publish a lot of books. So I always telling people, everybody has a book in them. They need to write. They need to, I don't care if they go through a publisher like us, or if they self-publish, whatever they do. So I may be a little biased there, admittedly, but there's a lot of different ways to create content and distribute it. And I'm not against any of them. We do them all, right? Blogs, videos, podcasts, you name it. But to me, like, the book is something special when you can hand somebody something, whether it's a prospect or a client or just a friend, and share knowledge through handing them that physical book. Like, why'd you go the book route?
Accidentally.
Best answer ever.
I had been teaching a course on fundraising for years. And I took the sections of that course and wrote blogs. Yeah. And I was about 2/3 in of the course and writing these blogs. Mm-hmm. And I went, oh my heavens, this could be a book.
You're like, I already wrote a book. You wrote a book and didn't know you were writing a book. That's
right. Great. And so it took a while because the blogs are pretty short. Yeah. So I had to expand these ideas out into more of chapters. I still kept it small. Again, that whole concept of people don't read. And so that I did that one. And then I had also had another workshop that I had done. And it was actually called the 19 Rules for Fundraising, which ended up being 24 by the time I got done. And I just felt that if I could, I loved my first book, but I thought I need something that's going to be more just boom, boom, boom. Because even when I teach webinars, and that's why I usually get pretty good marks when I teach a webinar, is I give people solutions that they can do. They can go back to their office, or if they're already in their office, and they can do it. And they can often do them within minutes, not days. Yeah. And if you don't give people solutions, theory is wonderful, but a solution is what people are looking for. I think especially today, more than ever before.
Yeah. And so now that you've published and you've gotten the work out, like, how do you feel? Like, how's the book been received up to now?
So far, in a very positive manner. I've had a couple of groups who've actually bought. I had one lady who bought 40 books. Yeah. She wanted all of her staff to have it. She wanted all of her board of directors to have it. She wanted a lot of her major donors to have the book. And I just had another lady who's ordered 25 books. She has a group of nonprofits she works with, and she wants them all to have the book. So, that to me is fun, because it's getting that information out to help them increase their capacity.
What would you tell those that are out there because this is what I find many times. There's individuals like yourself that are, really experienced. They have a lot to offer. They are offering a lot to their clients and otherwise. And I'll put myself in this camp, by the way. Like, my first book, I didn't want to do it. I was, my mentor said, Adam, you got to write a book. And I'm like, I'm not writing a book. Like, I don't have time for that. That's my famous one, right? For sure. I don't have time for that. And so, begrudgingly, at this time I was a finance advisor still. Begrudgingly, I wrote that first book, and it really changed my life. It did. Like, everything, like the company, everything, they all started from that book in terms of that being the seed that was planted. So what would you tell those out there that are considering a book, or maybe haven't, but they have this wealth of knowledge? Like why should they do it?
I think it gets really down to the point of, if you have a body of knowledge that will make a difference, you quite honestly have a responsibility to share it. I think that if that whole thing, knowledge is power. Yeah. But knowledge is only power if you share it. If you keep it to you, what good did it do?
Yeah.
But if you give it to the world, I mean, I have a gentleman who is actually in Nigeria who's in contact with me about maybe helping their nonprofit. I don't know if I can, but it's like, I'll answer his questions. I can maybe give him some ideas. And I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a postcard. Where's a copy? I have a little bitty postcard that looks just like the front of the book. And on the back of this postcard, if somebody has this, they can call me for a 30-minute consultation on any fundraising. Adam, it's 30 minutes of my life that I can give back to somebody else or to a nonprofit and help them.
Yeah.
Am I doing this pro bono? Yes. Mm-hmm. If they find I'm valuable, they may hire me, or they may bring me in to speak, or they may buy 40 of my books.
Yes.
So it really is about giving back to the world. Why not?
Well said. And that's where my heart's at. And I've seen it, like the more authors that I've seen that I have the privilege of interviewing on this show, and that many people, I like that you said you did it by accident again on some of these things that happen, right? Like it's one of those things. My first book I wrote while I was on a train. I was literally speaking into some dictation app, and that's how it was written. And I was traveling. And then when I got back, I was like, okay, I think I got a book. Send it to an editor. It's my ugly duckling. And, it's not professional like the books we do now, but I leave it out there because I'm like, I think people should just go out there and do it by any means, whatever you have to do, like your story, your message, got to get that out there so that others can benefit. And I like your take. It is a responsibility. Mm-hmm. So Diana, first off, this has been great to reconnect with you ever since those days of Toastmasters when I appreciated your mentorship and guidance, and even like the speeches and all the other things. I think, you're taking me back, but I think, was there something called a bronze communicator or something? Like I got the first level, but you were many levels further ahead than
I actually went all the way to gold.
Did you?
Yeah, I didn't go beyond that because there was a requirement that I just said, I'm not doing this. But I got the gold.
Oh, that's amazing. Anybody watching this, if you haven't explored Toastmasters, 100% do it. It's a great organization to build your confidence, your speaking ability, all the other things that you want to do, even if you don't want to be in front of camera, or you don't want to do things in the media or other things like that, or you don't have to be a speaker, like just communicating with your team, like in a group huddle, or like just feeling more confident on the phone, like all those things, no matter where you're at. But at some point, there's communication going on, and it helps.
Yep. I love Toastmasters.
So what's next, Diana? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the company? What's next for the books? What's next?
Well, I do have a third book in mind, so I'm playing with that.
You got the book bug for somebody that was on the first one thinking about
I know.
I love it. Go ahead.
I haven't done that yet. And I'm also considering developing an app that, because I so believe in the case for support for nonprofits, where the app would allow them to fill in a certain amount of information and basically print out their case. Now, and as I tell people, they would have to make it look pretty. I mean, I can't do their graphics, and I can't put in that photo, of that child who needs help. They're going to have to do that part. But it would give them that framework. So that's kind of on my to-do list, as well as I'm developing a course that I want to teach online. I prefer to teach in person, but by teaching online, the gentleman who is in Nigeria can be in my class.
Yeah. It's the next step. It's the evolution. We're all evolving, and I love to see your evolution into from obviously successful business owner to now a author multiple times, and now and obviously you've been a teacher, and you've been speaking for a long time, but now you'll be doing online courses and other things. I think it's going to be awesome. So even graduating from the webinar side, I think, which you've been doing. So I just love to see the evolution, that you keep pushing the envelope to find ways to take the knowledge that you've accumulated through the years and helping your clients, and to really share that with others so that they can benefit and be of benefit, hopefully, as well. That being said, so Diana, if somebody is listening to this and they want to connect and they want to follow up, whether it's about the book, whether it's about maybe a consultation, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh gosh, probably the best way is by email. It's, Diana, DIANA at formulaforfundraising.com. Yeah. They can also call my phone, 602-722-3624. Please no crank calls, but
we got a good audience. Don't worry.
Well, I love to help nonprofits, and sometimes somebody just needs a simple answer. And if I can do that, I would love to.
Fantastic. And to our audience, we'll put some information in the show notes so that you can connect with Diana as well. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging with our platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts, and having them share their vision, their mission, why they do what they do, how they're doing it, what knowledge do they have that we can all benefit from and learn and grow together. If that's the type of content that you find interesting or exciting or of benefit or value, then we encourage you, hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Diana, it's been so much fun reconnecting with you and having you on the show. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.